Hey guys, welcome. Today I'm going to show you the difference between watercolors. There are several different kinds you can pick from. The first one I'm going to show you will be a liquid watercolor. This is Dr. P.H. Martin. This is the watercolors I started with. Then we're going to talk about a tube watercolor, which they come in these nice little tubes. And then last but not least, a palette watercolor. These are three different choices you can have, and I'm going to show you how to work with each of them. I'm just using a Canon XL type paper, and I'm going to show you the liquid watercolor. Liquid watercolor is basically, it's liquid. So you can just put a little drop on your palette, and you will see it's very concentrated. So if I use a liquid watercolor with a dry brush, it's very concentrated, okay? So how I use a watercolor, a liquid one, is I always get my brush wet. Let me clean that out a little bit. And then I'll dip it in there in the watercolor, and I'll move it around a little bit and add as much water as I need, and then use the watercolor. You'll see they're very concentrated. It's very bright. These are really fun to make like big wild watercolors with. The second one I'm going to show you is a tube watercolor. These come in little tubes, and all you have to do is take your tube and squeeze it out into your palette. This is a Missions palette that it comes with, and so this type of watercolor you can just put on your palette, and you can see that when you first put it out, it's a little bit more concentrated and liquidy. The colors are very vibrant and cool. You can also see too in my Missions watercolors that when they dry, you can reactivate them by just adding some water to them. This is a different colored blue. So both of the liquid and the tube watercolors, they will dry on a palette, and you can reactivate them with water later on. Also, the last but not least is going to be my palette. The palette is completely dry when you get it, and you just take your brush with your water and you'll add water to it. And then if you need to water it down, I always take my brush, get a lot of paint on it, come to my palette over here and water it down. So whatever I need it to be. I prefer to use now the tube watercolor, which is here. The colors are vibrant, and it's also nice too if I'm on the go. I can stick it in my palette, let it dry overnight, and I can take it with me without a mess. You can also leave this in a palette and let it dry, but it does take a little bit longer to dry. So those are your three options. All right, so also someone was asking, how do you swish your watercolors around? People always see me doing my watercolors, and I have a technique. I am not trained as an artist. I am self-taught, so this might be completely wrong, but this is how I do it, and I will show you. The first thing I do when I'm going to paint something is I take my brush and I wet it, okay? I typically paint wet on dry, meaning my paintbrush is wet, my paper is dry. There's also another technique called wet on wet, where my paper is wet and my brush is wet, and I will get into that in another video, but right now I'm just going to show you how I use these watercolors. Using a palette, what I'll do is get my brush wet. I will pick up some paint, and then I will use the plastic part of my palette to water it down. So I have some paint on my brush. I will pick up more water and add it over here to water it down. So pick up more water, add it, and water it down, okay? And that will give me the consistency I want. If I said, oh, that's way too dark, then what I would do is come back over and keep adding water, okay? I do it this way. Some people do it opposite, meaning they might take water and add paint to the water, like a little bit of water and add paint to it. This is just how I do it. I just take water and add it to a little bit of the paint, and I swish it around, and then I'm ready to paint. If this is too dark, I will add more water to it and blend it out. Okay, the same thing works for the liquid watercolors over here. So my liquid watercolors, I can take my paint and add water to it, and add water, and add water to get the right consistency and make messes like I'm very good at, and then I'll add it to my palette. And the same is true for the palette as well. So you take your wet brush, you add it to the paint, and then you get it to the consistency and watered downness to paint. If you have any questions, comment below. All right, guys, so my kids did not want to come in here today and do my invitation, but my mom did. So my mom's gonna tell you what you're supposed to do.
Like and subscribe. Oh, yay!
Do it. You should do it.
Yeah,
all right, guys, so my kids did not want to end this with me, so I brought in my mom. All right, Mom, what are we supposed to tell them? Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. I can't say the word right, but you know what I'm talking about. Like and subscribe. I can't say it.
Okay, so my kids did not want to
Like and
subscribe.
subscribe. Oh, you know what I'm talking about.